Lesson 6 and 7. Today we'll be discussing tactics and strategies, and this is arguably going to be the last video lesson in which you will not be able to see my face. I've also taken the liberty of employing a more energetic sounding voice so that the lesson may come through a bit more easily. So what are we going to discuss in this lesson? Well, tactics and strategies may sound a bit confounding at first, and so what we're going to do is for the agenda, we're going to first define and differentiate between tactics and strategies, and then we'll analyze them from the perspectives of both chess and creative writing, both of which are activities I've practiced for quite some duration and which I have relative expertise on. And finally, some takeaways. Since I am a student, and presumably most of my viewers are going to be students as well, what are some key takeaways for you, even if you do not practice either chess or creative writing? And what can you learn from this lesson to implement in daily studies as a general rule? On the right-hand side, we have this picture which I borrowed from Marketing Strategy versus Tactics. And it'll give you a brief idea as to what strategy and tactics actually are. So a strategy is going to be your high-level battle plan for guiding market tactics, or simply guiding tactics. If we have a map and we have a destination that we want to get towards, then the destination is going to be our goal. More on goals later, but primarily our strategy is going to be we want to get towards our goal. And we're going to do that in a quick manner, in a slow manner, in a calculating manner, or give everything we got and plunge ourselves straight into it. The tactics is going to be the simple path that we map out, or perhaps not so simple, but it's going to be the path that we map out on the way to the goal. And so it is going to be the specific actions that help execute your marketing strategy, or for us, simply our strategy. The definition or differentiation between tactics and strategies is that Google does not do a very good job of differentiation. The definitions sound rather bland or does not do a clear job of defining why these two terms are different. A strategy is defined as a plan of action designed to achieve a long-term or overall aim. And so think about it from the long term. Your plan in the long term is going to be a strategy. A tactic is going to be an action or strategy carefully planned to achieve a specific end. While not explicitly stating it, I takes to tactic to be a short-term strategy, or think about it this way, a tactic or many tactics when combined together form your overall strategy. So for me, while strategy is the action plan that takes you where you want to go, the tactics are the individual steps and actions that will get you there. In the context, this means tactics play a major role in the specific actions teams take to implement the initiatives outlined in the strategy. If that sounds a bit vague, then feel free to look at this graph. In this graph, or in this table, I would like to show that the three levels of doing anything include the goal, the strategy, and the tactics. Remember previously in the map, I talked about the goal or of finding a treasure. Well, a goal is what you would like to achieve by an agreed deadline or a specific thing that you want to do. The strategy is the logical argument that positions you with an advantage and positions you well to achieve your specific goal. And finally, the tactics is going to be the actions you will take to fulfill the strategy and succeed in achieving your goal. And so theoretical talk is cheap. And what about implementations? Well, in terms of chess, tactics and strategies may be familiar to every single chess player. In chess, there are two fundamental concepts that, while interconnected, have very significant differences and serves distinct purposes in gameplay. Tactics are these short-term maneuvers that aim to achieve immediate gains, such as win a material or perhaps even delivering mate. They typically involve a carefully calculated sequence of moves and capitalize on certain opportunities, perhaps a lead in development, material, or a faulty decision made by your opponent. Common tactics, like I've listed above here, include forks, which is an attack on two pieces simultaneously, pins, which is restricting a piece's movement because moving it would result in loss of material or perhaps mate. Discovered attacks, which is going to be the maneuvering of a piece that reveals an attack on another piece. In terms of strategy, you can think about it simply that all of the openings that you see are going to be strategies. You can play a gambit, which is going to be quick sacrificial of pawns or even a minor piece, such as a knight or a bishop, in return for quick development and quick pressure. You can play a defensive system, such as the Slav or the semi-Slav against the Queen's Gambit. You can also play a dynamic system, such as the Grunfeld. Overall, strategy in chess is all about one, increasing your piece mobility, two, fixating a good pawn structure and not leaving any pawns isolated, keeping your king safe by castling early or in the middle game, and of course, controlling key squares, which is why people tend to play d4 and e4 first to control the central squares and make place for future development. In terms of interrelationship, I would say that again, tactics focus on immediate actions, and strategy provides the overarching plan that guides those actions. You may have successful tactical play, but it would also take careful maneuvers for you to make those tactical plays convert into a well-executed strategy. And so, in summary, tactics are about short-term victories that make you feel good and make you positionally better, but your strategy is going to be the long-term playing and positional play that makes you eventually win a chess game. Moving on to creative writing. For a writer's perspective, the tactics that you can implement or the strategies that you may use may seem to be a lot more vague than as would seem in chess. So think about it this way. Tactics in creative writing are going to be specific techniques and methods that you employ to execute a strategy. So immediate actions such as using a repetition of symbols, employing a specific tone, or using certain devices. What I like to use sometimes in my writing is to use flashbacks to reveal past mistakes or include a past detail that people would not understand in the present, crafting dialogue that highlights internal conflict, or as Shakespearean plays would like to do, highlight internal struggle, and of course also employ cliffhangers. R.L. Stein was a big fan of employing cliffhangers in the entire Goosebumps series. So while some cliffhangers can be good and overall some tactics can be good, be careful not to use cliffhangers all too often, and be careful not to clutter up your plot with seemingly clever tactics, but ruin the overall storytelling. In terms of strategy, I would say use some pre-writing techniques. You can outline for your structure and also revise by attending workshops. Perhaps you can think through some key questions before you start writing or even as you are writing. For example, what is the main conflict of the story? What themes will you be exploring overall, not specifically in one scene? And what emotional journey do you want the reader to experience? Perhaps you might decide to tell a story that explains themes of redemption through struggling against past mistakes and making correct choices in the present. These strategic decisions will shape how your plot eventually unfolds and will also influence how your characters manage to develop throughout the narrative. And finally, key takeaways. Even if you do not study either chess or creative writing, there are still things that you can learn from these lessons. Remember that both tactics and strategies exist to serve the role of fulfilling a greater goal. And so in studying, I would say that the relationship between tactics and strategies is going to be that it can illuminate aspects of each other that you may not have thought of previously. And so in studying, you can implement certain strategies. Perhaps active learning or reflection would be able to help you throughout the entire course duration, while in the face of a midterm exam, in the face of finals, you will want to implement tactics such as doing group studying sessions or searching the internet for resources that may help you specifically understand one topic or help you go over one final question that you may not have answered yourself. So throughout the course, part one and part two, the 4 weeks in part one of building a mindset, which is highly theoretical, and in part two, when differentiating between in learning and doing, I would say that the lessons that I have taught focus largely on my own experience with creative writing and chess. They do not have to apply to everyone, but the ability to eventually extract ideas that exists in everything you learn from. And using that knowledge to help you in other areas of study is what eventually makes a person successful in many endeavors. Sometimes I find myself losing interest in specific activities after a very short period of time. Sometimes I don't. And I hope that can change. I hope that with learning the art of learning, and also in the process of making this course, I found myself to be having greater knowledge as to how I should approach a new lesson, a new subject. If I want to pick up on something new, there's this now clearly defined path that I forged for myself and also for you that I hope that we can all learn from and try to employ for later on in life. This is going to be the last time I cut off my camera during recording, and I hope that you've learned something. In the following weeks, we're going to be talking about practical implementation case studies and also doing a brief course recap and reflection. I'll see you then.